Hey, what's up guys? I'm Jared Poirier, and welcome to my movie review show where I talk about movies. Alright, so on last week's show, we did a review of Scarface. I'll put a link down in the description to that video if you guys want to check it out. But on today's show, we're reviewing Black Panther. Alright, so Black Panther is directed by Ryan Coogler, who also directed Creed and some other movies with Michael B. Jordan. And this movie stars Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, who's fighting to take his rightful place as the King of Wakanda after the death of his father. And we heard a little bit about Wakanda in Captain America Civil War, but in this movie we get a lot more details. And we find out that Wakanda is actually like an Afro-futurist society that's hidden within Africa because they don't want the rest of the world finding out about their technology. Alright, so let's get right into it guys. Here's my review of Black Panther. So let's start with the good. I really liked a lot of the characters in this movie. Chadwick Boseman is really good as T'Challa. I really bought him in those more serious, contemplative moments where he's struggling to become the man that he knows that he needs to be in order to rule Wakanda. But I actually thought that T'Challa gets a little bit overshadowed in this movie by the villain, Eric Killmonger. I really liked Michael B. Jordan in this role, but I'll get into that a little more later. Winston Duke as M'Baku is another one of my favorite characters. At first you think he's just going to be this like stern, mean character, but it turns out in the end that he actually has a lot of personality. And another standout for me was Letitia White as Suri. I thought that she was a really funny character, and she really added a youthful energy that this movie needed. Another really great thing about Black Panther is the awesome costumes. I actually think that Black Panther has some of the best costumes in the entire MCU. The costumes look like they're mostly based off of traditional African dress, just jazzed up a little bit. And there's also quite a lot of variance in the costume design from tribe to tribe. Another thing that I really enjoyed about Black Panther is the music. The music in this movie is fantastic. I really liked the way that they combined kind of modern hip-hop beats with more traditional African tribal music. And I really liked how the action in this movie didn't rely too heavily on CGI. Most of the important fights in this movie are just one-on-one, and they're actually pretty brutal. Another thing that's really cool about Black Panther is all of the technology. The nation of Wakanda has a lot of really cool technology. There's like these UFO spaceship things that they fly around in. They have a really cool design. I also like the design of the cloaking mechanism that hides Wakanda from the rest of the world. And of course you have the Black Panther suit, which looks even better in this movie than it did in Civil War. And the Black Panther suit has an additional power now. It's actually able to absorb and disperse kinetic energy. And another thing that Black Panther does really well, which I think is actually an improvement over some of the recent Marvel films, this movie actually has some good dramatic moments, and they don't always undercut every serious moment with a joke. Alright, so I said I was going to talk a little bit more about Killmonger, and this is where I'm going to do it, because Killmonger is a really good villain. Stupid name, good villain. But I liked how Eric Killmonger isn't just this generic villain. You can understand where he's coming from, you can empathize with him, and you can see the series of events that led him to becoming a villain. And that's the type of villain that I like. One that you can understand, and one that you can sort of empathize with. And the last thing that I'll mention here, in this positive part of the review, that's all full of positivity, I liked how there's a bit of an interesting thing going on in the plot here, where the main conflict isn't just between T'Challa and Killmonger, but it's also between T'Challa and the elders of his own community. Because the ancestors of Wakanda are afraid what the outside world would do if they found out about the advanced technology that they possess. So they've chosen to hide that technology from the rest of the world, and at the same time, they've sort of isolated and abandoned all of the other black people throughout the world. And I thought that that added an interesting dynamic to the central conflict here, but it's also a bit problematic, and we'll get into that.
Alright, so now it's time for the negative part of the review that's all full of negativity.
Actually guys, there's a lot more stuff in this movie that I liked than I didn't like, but here's some of the stuff I didn't like. And the first thing is that this film is a bit formulaic. After 18, I think, Marvel films, you can really see the formula here. I mean, let's just compare this to Thor Ragnarok. You have a king who loses his throne to a clandestine usurper who's from within his own bloodline, only to leave his kingdom and return once he's learned something about himself and gain some new allies. And I'm not saying that these movies are bad, I'm just saying that there's clearly a formula here. And at this point, not every single Marvel movie is super original. And at this point, these films really do feel like products more than pieces of art. Very competently assembled products, products that I myself really like, but products nonetheless. Another thing that really bothered me, and this is a problem with all of the Marvel films, but they really do sanitize the violence. And I think that in these movies, you get a really inaccurate portrayal of what gun and knife violence actually looks like. And I think that this can actually be really damaging because you're not showing the consequences of that violence. And sometimes in these films, really horrific violence is just played for a joke, and I gotta say that I find that kind of disturbing. Okay, and this is the last problem with this film that I'm gonna talk about here, but the whole conflict between T'Challa and the ancestors of Wakanda is actually pretty problematic. Because when you start to think about it, well, what is this film saying? Is it saying that black poverty exists because of the failure of leaders within the black community? Because I think that when you look at black poverty all around the world, the causes of that are actually very complex, and it goes into a lot of social and political and historical causes. So I think that even though Black Panther brings up some pretty important issues here, it only scratches the surface. Okay, so now it's time for my final thoughts on Black Panther. In the end, I think that Black Panther is a really good addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It has really good characters, really good costumes, and really good music. In addition to that, it's not too heavily reliant on CGI. I like how the movie was able to have some dramatic moments and not undercut every serious scene with a joke. I also thought that this film had a really great villain and a really intriguing central conflict. Unfortunately, I did find that Black Panther was a bit too formulaic. I didn't like how they sanitized the violence, but they do that in all these Marvel movies. I appreciated that this movie approached the issue of black poverty, but I thought that its exploration of that issue was a bit surface level. And I just wish that the movie would have went into the root causes of black poverty with a little more detail. But all in all, guys, Black Panther was a lot of fun, and I recommend that you guys check it out. So what did you guys think about Black Panther? Let me know down in the comments. Anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching another one of my videos. I love you guys, and I will see you guys next time.